might even be more prevalent with, if you're having a bunch of these Zoom parties, you might have a lot more things like all the time around, or more parties than usual because, oh, now we can have a party with my cousin in New Jersey and you live in Washington and you normally don't get to see those people. So there might actually be more events or a lot of small events, like a lot of, oh, we'll just have two people over situations. So it's definitely worth being cognizant of. And as we get to the end of this, I have a little work that I want you to kind of brainstorm what might be ahead for this month. So one thing that I recommend, if you are not currently, I know some of you are working with me and that's a little different because you have that support, but it might not be a great idea to try to lose weight, especially even if, and this is something we'll talk about if we are working together, like the week of Christmas or Hanukkah, whatever is your holiday, I recommend taking that week and saying, you know what, maintenance is great. If you try to lose weight over the holidays, often what happens is that you try for something that's not possible and you feel like a failure. And that is never what we want. Most people gain weight over the holidays and they never take it off. It usually only is 1 to 3 pounds, but they gain that weight every single year and they never take it off. So by maintaining your weight over the holidays, you're actually coming out ahead of where most people are. And I think we can all think of a year where that happened to us. One thing I want you to think about, because some people think, well, if I'm not losing weight, then why bother trying? Think about how you want to feel, because over the holidays, you don't want to feel sick. You don't want to feel like the blueberry girl from Willy Wonka. You want to feel great. You want to have energy. You want to, if somebody says, hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to hang out on Zoom or go for a run outside? I'm not going to be able to see you. Let's go for a walk outside. I know it's 5 degrees, but this is our opportunity. You want to be able to jump on that and enjoy those holiday memories. And most of your favorite holiday memories probably are around the experiences and the people. Sometimes it is about the food, but often there's one thing. Oh, I went to this party, the food was great, but really it was this thing was great. One thing was great. The rest of it, I don't even remember it. And I would think of your favorite holiday foods and write down somewhere right now. I want you to write down your top 3 favorite holiday foods. And I want to make sure that you get them this year. So you can do that now, or I'll be sending an email with a couple exercises afterwards. But I'll give you a few seconds to do that right now. And if there are some foods that you often see at the holidays that you don't really care for, I would write those down too as a reminder. Hey, I don't really like this, since we just had Thanksgiving, that's on my mind. I don't really even like green bean casserole. I'm just going to, no one will even notice if I don't take some. I also want you to set some rules and boundaries. That can sound like it's not very fun, um, but actually it makes it more fun. So if you, and by a rule or boundary, I mean a rule might be every day I'm going to eat breakfast that has a protein and a vegetable, or every day I'm going to get at least 2,000 steps. Because if you don't leave your house, 2,000 steps can be a lot of steps. um, Whatever it is, and it can be more ambitious than that. Or I'm going to make sure I have water. I'm going to have 8 glasses of water every day because I tend to get dehydrated in the winter because it's cold. I don't want to drink water because water's cold. Whatever it is, if you set a few rules and boundaries for yourself, that's going to make everything else fall into place a little bit easier. Does anyone have a rule or boundary that they've done or think would be a good one, just to kind of share?
I don't go to bed unless I get in 10,000 steps. So I'll walk, pace pace my 20 feet that I have to walk until, yeah, so that's my role. And you can ask our grandma. I pace her house when I'm there up and down the hallway, and she actually thinks it doesn't count because it's not real walking, but 10,000 steps is it for me.
I try and always drink water in the morning, like 2 bottles of water before, like by 7 in the morning, just because I know how important water. Like I like drinking water, but I'll lose track if I don't start drinking early.
I think that that's good ones. Those are good rules. And then for boundaries, um, that could be limiting alcohol. Say a certain amount of drinks per evening. Like for me, that's two. By more than two drinks, I feel like crud the next day. It's not good. Um, or desserts, I'm going to limit to, one or two desserts tonight. That can be an example of a boundary. Or I'm going to go to bed by midnight, because if I don't go to bed by midnight, I'm going to be feeling it for a long time. It doesn't have to even be related to food and drink to impact how you're going to feel the next day. And take it one day at a time. Some of us, maybe Thanksgiving didn't go that great, or there was a day after Thanksgiving when the leftovers struck. And you know what? It happens. We're going to learn from it and move on to the next day, because carrying the guilt to the next day, to the next week, isn't going to help you. So if you're staying in for the holidays, you're not really going to any holiday parties. I have a feeling that a lot of people, I don't think anybody really knows what they're going to be doing necessarily. But maybe there'll be some that are in, maybe you're quarantining to spend the holidays with a certain person on Christmas morning, or whatever it is. But if you are staying home for a major meal, or having it with just, there's going to be two of you, it's a lot of cooking to do for 2 or 4 people. Maybe find a neighbor or a nearby friend or relative to split the cooking with. So you make these two sides, they make these two sides, you make twice as much as you need, you meet up, you swap sides, and now you've got a lot less cooking to do. Portion control, this is a year to kind of make it, leftovers I think are really going to be important. So using a muffin tin, maybe putting mashed potatoes or something like that in muffin tins, and then freezing portions, so that when it's another holiday Zoom party, let me take my mashed potatoes my muffin mashed potatoes out, and then it's really easy. I didn't have to make new things. I already know what's in here, and now I don't have to deal with all these leftovers. I know what these leftovers are going to be used for. And if you're on Zoom, make yourself a mocktail. I have a whole bunch of recipes that I'll send out after this. No one's going to know. You probably won't even notice, because you're just going to be sipping it. It's just something there to have. Tea is also great for this. Make it kind of, I also have one of the
What's
holiday mocktails I have is a hot toddy mocktail. Somebody have a question?
What's a mocktail?
A mocktail is a non-alcoholic cocktail. So it's fun. There's good, tasty things in there, but no alcohol. That doesn't mean they have no calories, just no alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll be talking more about mocktails later as well. And maybe make it special. Start some new traditions. My friends, we always have a Christmas party, and we're thinking about doing an online murder mystery party this year. Or maybe I would have spent $600 going back to Chicago for Christmas, and now instead I can invest that money into, actually I bought some gym equipment instead with it. Still investing it in myself, but in a different way. If you are going somewhere, I recommend eating something before you go. If you go real hungry, then it's hard to keep your portion sizes low. So if you go somewhere and you are ravenous, how much self-control are you going to have? But if you eat something before you go, even if it's just a little something, it's going to be a lot easier to pause, take a look at what's around, and then choose purposefully instead of letting the party foods happen to you. So here's some things that I like to have: egg whites and frozen bell pepper in a little omelet, really easy. Chicken and veggie stir fry. Take those frozen stir fry vegetables, mix them with some chicken. Tuna can also work well for that if you don't want to make anything and you just want to open a can. Doesn't taste quite as good, but it works. Protein shake. You can even blend it up with some frozen spinach or other. I've also seen people using frozen butternut squash in their protein shakes to make like a pumpkin spice protein shake situation. A soup is also great. You can use broth. You can even just do a can of Campbell's and have some soup before you go. And there's a picture of little Clyde from last Christmas party in his little Santa suit. I also recommend taking some moments this month to take a break, to take some deep breaths. If you're feeling frantic, that's even more reason to pause and go, you know what, this is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be a fun time of year. I'm going to a party or whatever it is. I want to enjoy myself. It's better to be 5 or 10 minutes late. And no one's going to any shows this year or anything that starts at a specific time. You know, take 5 minutes, do some breathing. You're going to be thankful for it, and your family's going to be thankful for it, and no one will notice that you were 5 minutes later. Or even better, plan to be ready an hour before you need to leave so that there's not a rush. If things run over, it's okay because you were aiming to be early. I also recommend bringing a vegetable or healthy dessert to share. There's often not very many veggies. I have a whole Pinterest board full of holiday recipes as well as another one full of those mocktails I was talking about. So I will send that out after this in an email. But I brought to Thanksgiving, I brought Brussels sprouts with bacon, and everyone, that was the biggest compliment at the table was on my Brussels sprouts. And they were very healthy. I mean, they had bacon and some bacon grease in them, but overall, pretty healthy side dish, and everyone really enjoyed them. So I recommend bringing a vegetable or a healthy dessert. These poached pears that are on there look so good. And the avocado mousse, what a better way to do a COVID-friendly little dessert than ones that are already in little dishes ready to go that people can grab. I also recommend not standing right next to the food. If there's like a table of cheese and crackers and all that, I recommend, get what you want to get, put it on a plate, walk to another part of the space, and then sit down to eat it if you can. You can't always sit to eat if you're at a party situation, but do your best and definitely put everything on the plate and walk away. Walk away. Walk away. We've all been that person standing next to the food table before. And here's more about the mocktails. I recommend making a non-alcoholic drink that's a little bit more fun than a soda or a seltzer for people to enjoy. And you'd be surprised. Every party I've hosted, when I make, in the summer, I'll usually make some kind of iced tea. In the winter, it'll be like an apple cider, really easy to do. And I have a whole bunch of ideas. I'm excited next year to really try out a whole bunch of different ones. But they always go before the alcohol does. People like them. If they're not drinking, they can feel like they're having a really good time. If they are drinking, sometimes they want to have something that's not alcohol. And I recommend that you have something that's not alcohol in between each drink. So if you're going to have some wine, say, okay, before I have my first glass of wine, I need to have a glass of water. And then after each glass of wine, I'm going to have either the mocktail that I brought, or I'm going to have some water, or another great idea is to bring Crystal Light or the squeezable water flavorers, and you can just add that to water and have it in a wine glass, and it looks like you're having a drink, and it was just in your purse or in your bag the whole time. It's going to make you feel better the next day. You won't have a hangover and you won't have as many drinks and you're going to have just as much fun. And then, that list of the couple favorite foods that we made, if those are there, if your favorite thing is pecan pie and there's pecan pie, have pecan pie. But if, there's something you don't really like, say you don't really like pumpkin pie, don't eat it. There's probably going to be something else there that you want so much more. Pick your favorite couple things and then don't feel guilty about it. And if somebody is very insistent, like, oh, you've got to try my pumpkin pie, you got to try my pumpkin pie, say, you know what, I'm really full, but I'd love to take some home and I'll have it tomorrow. And if you want to have it tomorrow, have it tomorrow. If you don't want to have it tomorrow, you don't have to. You don't have to eat foods because it's going to make someone else happy. Take it, be really excited about it. And that's really what they wanted. They wanted you to thank them and to be really excited about it. The fact that they went through all this work to make this thing, whether you actually ingest it or not. Most people aren't going to stare at you while you eat it. Maybe there's somebody who does that, but often that's not the case. So take it home or try it, have a little bite, talk about how great it is and say, you know, I'm really full. I'm going to take the rest of this home. And if you want to eat it the next day, then have it. Or you could put it in the freezer and save it for like mid-January when there aren't fun things around. And then now you're like, oh, I've got cookies. They're in my freezer. Cookies freeze really well, by the way. Pie doesn't. Cookie does. Enjoy that food. You know, if you really want the pecan pie, have some, sit and really think, oh, somebody made this. My Aunt Jane made this. You know, she put lots of love in here. I'm going to remember and thank her for this and really enjoy it, because sometimes we can sit and even though it's our favorite food, we're distracted by a million other things and all of a sudden there it went and we didn't even enjoy it and it's gone. So sit down, enjoy it. If someone's talking to you, if you've got to deal with children or someone else, do that and then come back to it. The food is probably not going anywhere unless you have, you know, somebody who likes to steal it. Now we're going to get into more of the nitty gritty on like exactly how to build your plate. I recommend having half of your plate be vegetables, a quarter of your plate be lean protein, and then a quarter whatever treats you want to have. And this is why I recommend bringing a vegetable, because think of the last holiday you were at. Were there enough vegetables there to have half your plate be vegetables, or would you have taken all the vegetables? So bringing a vegetable side, it lets you know those vegetables are going to be there. I brought them. Maybe there'll be more, maybe there won't be, but if there's not, I know there's what I brought. And then lean protein, that could be, so at Thanksgiving, that would probably be the turkey. At Christmas, that might be ham, a roast, if that's what you have. Everyone has so many different traditions, meatloaf, whatever it is. If you're a vegetarian, then often there probably isn't an entree for you. So I recommend bringing an entree if you are a vegetarian, unless your whole family is. And then having those indulgences, that pie, the stuffing, whatever it is. Here's some examples of pictures I found that had kind of a good representation of what this might actually look like. So this person, they have their vegetables, they've got their Brussels sprouts and their green beans, and they've also got some, looks like some spinach with pecans. They have their turkey with cranberry sauce, a little bit of stuffing and sweet potatoes, some gravy, and a nice slice of pie, some wine, and some water too. Here's another one. So we've got our protein stacked kind of on top of our indulgence here, and then some mashed potatoes, and then the green beans and cranberry. Now, sometimes this happens. Everybody's eating a lot. Everybody's talking. Like I said, you're not maybe even realizing that you're eating food sometimes. you're so preoccupied with everything that's going on, especially this year. Maybe you haven't seen this person that you're eating with in the last year. Put your utensils down between bites. Take your bite, put your fork down, finish the bite, and then pick your fork back up instead of holding the fork in your hand the whole time. This is where it's just kind of like, oh, where's my plate go? You can also, depending on who you're eating with, they might make fun of you for this, but if you tend to eat quickly, this could be more of a tip for the non-holiday meals. Eat with chopsticks, because it's hard to eat quickly with chopsticks unless you hold the plate up and shovel it into your mouth. Talk with others about fond memories, plans for 2021, 2022, whatever gets you excited. Have some positive conversations. Wait 15 minutes before going back for your next plate. If you're worried something's going to run out, my trick, put it on the plate and then put the plate in the fridge or on top of the fridge, and your plate's safe. You'll still get to try whatever it is, but you don't have to rush back for it. And if somebody asks you about it, say, you know what, I really want to take my time eating, but I really wanted to try that, so I put my plate to the side. It's a perfectly normal thing to do. Stop to help the host, see if they want to be waited on. And one tip my sister-in-law taught me was not just to ask, hey, do you need help, but to ask, hey, what do you need help with? They're more likely to give you what they actually need help with. Play with the kids if there's kids around. Ends up being way more fun than sitting and eating. And you get up and you get a little activity too, maybe get a couple steps. You don't have to pace up and down the hallway. And remember the other meals. Even if you have a holiday meal every other day, that's 3 meals out of 21 for the whole week. It's not that many. So stick with the basics for those other meals. Make sure you're having a vegetable and a protein with each one, and limit desserts when you're not at a holiday event to 1 a day, because they're around. Like I said, the freezer is your friend. If you live in an area that you can, the trunk of your car might be your friend, because it's cold enough most places that the trunk of your car is a perfectly safe place for desserts and things to hang out. Oh, Zoom just extended our time, which was nice. I don't think we're running too far close to it, but now is the time where I want to plan together. I don't know if you saw the attachment that I sent out, and if anyone had a chance to print it. If you don't, that's fine. Go get a piece of paper, and if you have a calendar would be great to look at, or pull up a calendar on your screen or on your phone. I want you to fill out all the holiday parties, birthdays, work events, happy hours, online events in that calendar. And I'm going to set a 60-second timer to do that.
I'm surprised anyone's allowed to have work events this time of year. My company actually told us all to not meet personally, that we're not.
Oh, I
because-
meant more virtual work events, but you never know. There
Yeah,
also are some, if you have a small office, like say there's 4 people that work there,
yeah.
I think it's a little bit of a different situation than if you work for a big company.
Yeah, the big company put the whole kibosh on it. They were like, absolutely not. We discourage anyone from seeing anyone outside of work since you're all working remotely. Please do not see anyone. And that we were like, wow, really?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Clint's office might have a small event because there's 5 of them.
Oh,
And
okay.
they already in an office together. So like,
That's
well,
different. Yeah.
yeah, so you never know. Or some works are having, online, okay, no, stop the timer. Some works are having online events. And they maybe are even having hosted wine tasting and things like that, like all sorts of stuff I've heard of. Yeah. So then I want you to go through your list, and your list, like mine, is only 3 things. Maybe 4. There's a 4th one that may or may not happen. Yeah, Rachel. Well, Rachel, are you gonna see Gummy for Christmas?
Yeah, but we're not doing anything. It'll just be her and I.
Oh,
That's it.
well. That's sad. So if you have more than 2 or 3 events, identify your top 2. And then I want you to go through, and this will take more time than we have right now, but make a strategy for each of those events. So, if it, and don't write off the online Zoom events because they can be a lot of peer pressure. And I think a big reason for that is we don't expect them to be. We're like, oh, it's just an online happy hour. It's not going to be anything. And then we get there, and there's that same kind of feeling of like, everyone's drinking, everyone's doing things, I want to do it too. And we're not ready for it the same way they might be ready when we're going to an actual party. So I still encourage you to make a strategy for those events. And those things are much more likely also to pop up last minute. Be like, oh, tomorrow, let's do this online trivia, or whatever it is. And you don't think it's going to be a big deal. And it actually is a bigger thing than you think it would be. I'd say the exception to that would be if you're doing something, one of those on like a game, because everyone's so busy doing, what's that game everyone's playing right now? Why can I not remember it? I downloaded it.
Among Us.
Among Us, yeah. If you're doing something like that, you're probably not going to be eating anything. You're going to be trying not to die. Gretchen's like, what?
I'm like, I'm totally out of the loop. I'll have to write this down. Among Us.
Yeah, I wrote it down too. I don't know what it is. So you're not alone, guys.
I'm an elementary teacher. That's the only reason I know. So I don't think it's anything that you would be dying for. But
Okay.
It's free, and you can have up to 12 people play, which is really nice, because then there's not a lot of games you can have kind of a large group play, and it's free. You can play cross-platform to iOS and Android, as long as the person has a smartphone.
I will say, I don't know if the games are so you guys might already know about this, but maybe a month or 2 ago, well, actually, I guess it was a lot longer ago, but there was like 4 or 5 of us in a living room, and we played games with the television, and it was almost like a suite of games, but it was like a lot of passing your cell phone and things like that. I'll have
Is
to
it
get
Jackbox?
Yes, that's it. I was like, I know I have a screenshot of it or I took a picture of it, but I wondered if any of those were also virtual in like living room to living room type ways. But that
They
was a
are.
really fun
Jackbox you
that
can
was a
do.
really fun, avenue that was different.
Yeah, I think you host it on YouTube or something, and then everyone can tune in with their phone. I don't know exactly how you do it, but I know you can, because I have actually done it. I've been at someone's house. There were 5 of us there, and then his friend joined us from his house, and this was a year, 2 years ago. So it's definitely, Jackbox is another one that I recommend for the holidays. We're going to be doing that at our holiday party.
Yeah,
It's, I think, $25, but only one person has to buy it, and then you have it forever. And they might have sales. So, and they usually come with like 6 games in each pack, and I think there's 5 or 6 packs you can get.
Ooh, see now I'll have to look.
Yeah.
Well,
I haven't purchased it
really
before.
fun. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of the end of this thing is I want to take any questions that anybody has or any particular event you think might be a challenge.